talking about us, Virginia. I know.
I'm Christina.
I'm Kendall.
We love talking about movies.
We like them weird and unconventional.
Offbeat and underrated cinema with cult charm.
And now we're going to share a conversation with you.
We're the Psychotronic Sisters.
Come into my den, said the spider, etc.
All right, Christina. So this one came from a recommendation that you made to me a really long time ago. You don't even remember, I think, recommending 1983 Siege, story about, a bunch of hoods attacking an apartment building. So that led me to Tenement, Roberta Findlay movie, which is a much more exploitation theme. And then based on that, am I bringing that up? You recommended Enemy Territory to me.
Mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm.
we have a lot of apartment building attack movies to discuss here today. So Siege 1983, you know more about this than me. It's a Canadian film. It was filmed in Nova Scotia. And the thing about Nova Scotia, I'm always going to associate it with being a little toddler. I must have been about 2. My parents took me on a bike trip through, Prince Edward Islands, Nova Scotia, all around there. So that's my permanent view of Nova Scotia, is me, a little fat cheeks with a bunch of lobsters around me. And that I there's a lot of pictures of me holding people's noses, because apparently I like to grab people's noses and say "hoink." So there's me doing that. I think there's one me doing that to a cop, to a little boy, like everybody. And I also just remember that they didn't have children's bike helmets at the time, so I had a little green hockey helmet instead. So then
Easy
we go
to find.
yeah, I guess. So then that brings us to Siege, which is a completely different vibe. So tell me about Siege.
Siege, it was made in 1981. It didn't release for a couple of years. It's also, if you're looking for it, it goes under the titles of Self-Defense or Night Warriors, or in Germany it was called New York 1991, because I guess that was futuristic. But it's a classic. It's a classic of Canuxploitation, and it was based on a real police strike that went on in 81. And it depends now, which version did you watch? Did you watch the shorter or the longer version? Because
What's on Tubi? That's the one I saw.
that's the shorter version is the one that the director prefers that everybody watch. But there was a longer version with an extra, I think about 10 or so minutes, that was put in there for Japanese release, because they wanted to be longer for a feature. And that's the one that includes like the background on the people before they go in, like the gang, that before they go, out for their night of violence. It has all the background and their home life and everything. Did you see that one?
No, I saw them
No.
going right into the violence.
See, that's interesting. So I watched the longer one this time. I saw the shorter one before because I wanted to know the difference. So the writer-director Paul Donovan, and his brother was the producer. His girlfriend I think is credited as one of the writers, Maura O'Connell, or one of the directors, but she was actually probably more of a producer.
Okay, I was
And
wondering who that was. Okay.
yeah, that was his girlfriend at the time. And the brothers eventually went into producing, and they did a bunch of action films and a very successful, well-known sci-fi show in Canada called Lex. But like I said, going back to the police strike, it lasted 53 days, and nothing really bad happened other than some joyriding and, around the police station. But it's a great trigger, right, for the imagination. And I mean, if you take that line of thinking, if you extend the consequences, you end up with something like The Purge, when you have lawlessness and everybody's worst impulses coming out and nobody can stop them. So it's really interesting. Like it's if we're going to compare it later to Tenement, where you have more diversity and everything, obviously this one centers whiteness a lot because it is Atlantic Canada after all in the 80s.
Super white, yeah.
Yeah. So, but then again, it's super progressive because it has the message of tolerance. Now, if we wanted just to go into the synopsis of a bit, it's a bunch of right-wing maniacs who have a gang called, I think they have their armbands, right? They have their fascist armbands with the letters NO for New Order.
I love that it's no, it's negative.
No, yeah, exactly. Perfect.
It's
And they
MAGA. It's very MAGA coded.
exactly, very much. And they storm into this a gay bar when I think all the other bars are closed. There's like this whole preamble. Like I said, like that in the part that I watched, you have the guys getting ready to go out and you find out that all the bars are closed and except for that one. And then they go for a gay bashing and they end up, like, I won't get into all the details, but they end up killing everybody there to silence an accidental death, and one of them gets away and runs into this apartment building, and then the siege happens against this guy hiding and the people protecting it in the building.
So
Yeah. What did you
the
think?
thing, well, first off, I love the way the gay bar was portrayed as just a bunch of people minding their business, because at the time that was not how a gay bar was portrayed. It was like
Hmm.
it was
Hmm.
kind of made to seem a little deviant,
Yeah.
even if maybe the filmmaker was kind of trying to say, well, no, we're just showing another side of life. They always made it look like it was this crazy foreign thing, and this is
Yeah.
really just people having a drink,
Yeah, it would have
hanging
been
out.
like cruising. Cruising was out around that time
Yeah,
too.
I think that's what I'm
So
thinking about. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, like it was more what it would be like, people just feeling safe together,
Hmm.
having a third place to go that they felt safe being themselves. And then they get violated in the worst way.
Yeah.
The thing about that is that you go from that to this one gay character escaping, basically the carnage that happens at this bar, and going to an apartment building, and they take him in without question.
Yeah.
And I think they only slightly waver when it starts to get dangerous, when these gang members are going after this one witness.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
But so here they are in this apartment building, which I think is a real apartment building
Yeah,
of
that's where
somebody of
the
in the
director,
film. Okay.
yeah, the Paul Donovan I think he wasn't living there at the time. He had lived there and currently had friends living there, and the landlord let them use it and shoot real bullets and real guns
Real?
and just make a mess, just make a total mess of it. He let them do it and whatever they wanted. And that apartment building is a character of its own in the movie, isn't it? Like the layout
Yeah.
of it is wild.
I mean, I know this apartment building. This was like a college era
Yeah,
apartment building where it's kind of not safe. There's probably some bad electrical. That's what I thought of.
yeah, yeah,
This is an apartment where there's definitely code violations, and
for
there's
sure.
stuff piled up. It's not taken care of, and there's
Yeah.
people doing things in it that they probably shouldn't, that make it even more unsafe. So
And
that's
and
real.
like the layout of it is that they have a neighbor that like that's kind of a militant ACAB type of neighbor, and they have to go up like a ladder up to the roof, up out the sunlight and down into the neighbor's sunlight to get down into his apartment, because the only other way to do it is to go all the way out the door and probably around the other side of the building.
Yeah.
So, and that really plays into all the choreography of the action and everything, which is fabulous. They also have like the two medicine cabinets, the mirrored medicine cabinets open up,
Right.
and they can sneak through there. So that's a big deal too. So it's kind of, the design of it is perfect for a movie like this because it's like its own obstacle course.
It's a little Home Alone vibe.
Yeah, exactly. And you can booby trap things and hide around corners and everything. So
Yeah, it occurred to me that Home Alone seems way more serious to me after
hmm.
seeing this movie, because it's
Hmm.
like,
Yep.
oh, that's a siege movie too.
Yeah, for sure. A home invasion and siege.
It's
Absolutely.
just a little blood away from. You made it cartoony. It
Yeah.
could be a horror movie easily. You could just mess with it a little bit, and you could change
Yeah.
the whole concept and it'd be more like a siege, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I think it is, going back to the messages of this one too, is I think this is probably, I would say this is a must for queer viewers, because even though you get through the whole, it's pretty brutal. Like it's so rough to watch that club scene because of the not just the language and the slurs and everything that happens, but then the message of it is, it's a message of tolerance too, because like you
Yeah.
said, they take him in and they protect him without question. And the only moment of kind of shakiness and doubt is the white woman, the girlfriend, Barbara. She's like, oh, I don't want to get involved. It's kind of giving me a headache. She doesn't want to get any, doesn't want to get her hands dirty. And she tries to call the police, even though I think she tries to call like the army emergency line, which I don't know if I've ever heard of such a thing, but
Yeah, that was new to me too,
you know,
actually. I was like, wait, who are you
so
calling?
that's kind of like pretty realistic even to this day. Like you have to wonder who you can trust and when they're going to chicken out and pull their support halfway through when somebody is in danger. But I think that's pretty,
Yeah.
the way it plays out after that bit is I think it's a really good, has a good message of tolerance and defense and standing up for, people, the things people can do if they're willing to stand up and protect and fight for other people.
And I think it's very current, the idea that there are powers that think that they can bring you down,
Hmm.
but people, as selfish as they may seem, and I think there was a lot of disappointment after COVID, a feeling that people didn't band together and help each other. But
Hmm.
I see that much more now, that people really are standing up for
Yep.
each other and showing their power, and it's not even just that there's more of us than them sort of mentality. It's like,
Hmm.
no, we
Hmm.
are individually strong
Yeah.
people helping each
Yeah.
other out. So yeah, it rung differently than it did when I saw it a few years ago, the first
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, and the gang is like really, like I say, in a way, I know the director wants people to watch the shorter version, but watching the longer one, when it introduces, the guys in this fascist mob, it introduces them, and they're just regular suburban dudes with wives
Yeah.
and nice homes, and a spoiler, later it turns out that one of them and maybe all of them were cops all along with nothing to do because of the strike, which is a its own kind of message, progressive message. So but
Right.
they really it still applies, unfortunately, that these regular dudes are just the regular suburban white guys are just kind of forming these gangs and spouting religious nonsense, and that's what they're saying at the club is what they're the new order, that's the new order they want to establish.
Yeah, and it's wanting to go back. It's a very
Hmm.
familiar thing. I mean, this has happened a lot of times in our history, for real.
Hmm. Hmm.
It gets compared to Assault on Precinct 13 a lot, like
Hmm.
all of these
Yeah.
movies we're talking about do. But the thing about that is that's not really meant, the villains are not meant to have character. They're meant to be kind of zombies. And that's
Right.
a really big difference here, is that in all of these, the people on the attack do all have very strong personalities
Hmm.
and are all angry and afraid and taking their fear out on other people, basically.
Right. Yeah. And in a lot of these cases, they've been kind of cornered into being violent because nothing else. The law is not helping anything. It's they're either, you can put them on a spectrum from ineffective and incompetent to downright bad. And so, what are the regular people are fighting each other instead of looking up. That's a whole other theme going on here, that they're turned against each other instead of fighting what the actual problems are.
I mean, it's like I don't really have sympathy, but I get where it comes from.
Hmm. Hmm.
I know they were all babies at one point who hadn't done a dang thing, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So Tenement, it's also called Game of Survival and
Hmm.
Slaughter in the Bronx. I
Hmm.
think that last one maybe describes this movie.
Yeah.
I mean, it's directed by Roberta Fenley. It got an X rating for violence.
Hmm.
What do you think of that X?
I can see it. I can see why. I mean, there is a couple, scenes in there. I remember, I think I texted you the one time when I watched and I was like, wow, these are these are brutal and rough. And there are some, moments when you're like, I know I'm thinking specifically of the one essay scene that probably is the
Yes.
thing that earned it.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, yeah, I'm sure
I
it
really
was that.
didn't watch that.
Yeah. And
I
even though
mean,
it's not that, I mean, it's not that actually graphic, it's more suggested, but still, it's just suggested enough that it's really unsettling,
it's so
obviously.
horrific. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the way that she fights back
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
takes her own victim
Yeah.
is
Take someone
also
with her.
horrific, even though a little bit of a
Hmm.
catharsis at the same time. No,
Hmm.
it is soaked in blood. I mean,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
think in a way, I think that this is supposed to be like a siege movie, again, like Assault on Precinct 13, which is pretty brutal in a lot of ways, but not like this. I
Hmm.
think
Hmm.
that you maybe have people expecting kind of an action movie, but it's horror
Hmm.
when you look at the violence of it. I think that's where the X came from.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
warning people of what's coming.
Hmm.
But I mean, this is Roberta Findlay. There's gonna be blood and
Right.
boobs and
And even so, though, she did a really good job with it because it is a lot of grotesque and really nasty, vicious material, but there's also a lot of humanity in
Yeah.
all of the characters and the consequences of every like there's you stop for the emotion of every single death and injury here.
Yes, you get to
And
know
people,
them.
yeah, and there's no judgment either. Like there's not even that much judgment on the gang really, and or the sex worker. Absolutely none there. But even on the gang, it's like so they're still painted as characters with lives and worries and things like that. So she did a really good job, I think, making it human and honest.
Yeah, it's funny to me that she doesn't think much of her film career because this really was a
Hmm.
great work
Hmm.
in that. I mean, I suppose I should set the scene here. I mean, this is a building
Hmm.
in the Bronx, in this, so that's when it was on fire. I mean,
Yeah.
the Bronx was basically burning at this time, and there was
Hmm.
in a lot of rubble, a lot of
Hmm.
I keep hearing landlords, kind of the government's behind it, this and that, all
Hmm.
sorts of reasons, but it's burning. So this building in this movie is a little isolated. Like you can see a kind of a block of buildings in the distance, but they're basically isolated. So they're out in the distance. It's sort of like more like a cabin in the woods sort of a vibe.
Hmm. Hmm.
And
Yeah.
then you got these people upstairs, and like you say, it's a very diverse array of people. They really lean into the stereotypes,
Hmm.
but in a loving way, I guess. It's like I am a Jewish grandmother, sort of
Right.
stuff.
Yeah.
But then you've got these thugs in the basement. It's just interesting because everything seems so realistic, but then this group they're like dressed like Mad Max.
Yeah, exactly.
Like if
Yeah.
you look up gangs in New York in the
Yeah, they do look
70s,
like
they
that.
all have
Yeah.
like denim vests with like their
Yeah.
colors or like the name of the gang. They don't have these outfits with like the dripping blood and the
Yeah.
leather with the chest exposed. I mean, and
Yeah.
also they're just sociopaths. They're drugged out sociopaths, which is also just not really
Mhm,
how I
mhm.
can like gangs are kind of like businesses and it's like
Yeah.
yes, there's crime, but
Yeah.
it's like there's codes of honor. It's not like just this free for all because nothing like that can sustain itself, you know?
No, exactly. Yeah. And they're ratted out by he's either is he the landlord or the super? I forget. Mr. Rojas. I can't
I
remember if
don't
he's
know
the
what
actual
specifically
landlord.
he is, but
Yeah.
he's definitely just as awful a character as the game
Yes. And
members.
with him too, what's interesting is because they're arrested, they're squatting in the basement, like you said, and causing trouble. They're ratted out, they're arrested, and then they're let out almost immediately. So they come right back to swear,
Yeah.
revenge. But they corner this guy Rojas, the super or the landlord, and they tell him to warn everybody to get out. And because of his macho, ego or whatever, he didn't want to say that. So he keeps it quiet and he makes up some other story about how he got this cut on his face. So his ego is responsible, or if you want to say, whatever, if you want to say his toxic masculinity, whatever, but
Yeah.
it prevents him from telling the truth about what happened, and he loses that they lose all that time that while the gang is getting all geared up to get even more violent. So
Yeah.
I think that's really interesting because in both of these movies you have a lot of these questions about masculinity. What is it? Are you going to assert it through violence? And gang warfare like this? Is it the guy in Siege who protects anybody who comes to the door and goes,
Hmm.
stands up for the guy who is not acting like a bully and he trusts, gives him the benefit of the doubt against the gang outside the door? Or is it? It's really interesting too because if you think of home invasion, which this kind of siege movies are these are kind of home invasion movies. They're
Yeah.
usually more of a feminine story, like they're more about the woman's home and the children and protecting it from outside forces, right? Or
Right.
somebody weaker, like air quotes on audio. I'm doing air quotes as weaker, right? And in this case, you have some disabled people in either visually or otherwise in these movies too. But it's
Hmm.
usually a more gothic, feminine kind of subgenre, the home invasion. You have a mad person in the attic, which you have here, which usually turns out to be either a veteran in enemy territory. You have a veteran in Tenement. You have a Vietnam vet, I believe, and you have like a wannabe militant type in Siege. But then
Yeah.
also you have this combined with this more of a Western siege idea, which is more masculine subgenre, right? So then you have an entire building under siege, not just the home. So here you have the men whose job it is to protect those buildings, the security guard or the landlord or the super or whoever. So I find it a really interesting kind of combination of all those elements because you
Yeah.
have a little from this and a little from column A and a little from column B from those.
And it is interesting the roles that women play and the way they
Mhm.
endure in some of these movies, like, enemy territory, a woman is the one that goes and gets help
Hmm.
and
And
I
shoots up the gang at the end.
yeah. So the thing about Tenement, there's this thing on TikTok about white women having no fear.
Hmm.
Like there's a
Hmm.
white woman who's like, I found this dog, and it's like a coyote.
Yeah,
There's this joke about
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
Well, there's this like older woman, Mina Burns. She plays Ruth Edelstein,
Hmm.
just the most Jewish of Jewish stereotypes ever. She's like, I've lived here for 40 years. She's got her plastic covered furniture,
Hmm.
and
Yeah,
she's just not afraid of these drugged
yep,
out psychopaths at all. Like she's out there with her baseball bat. And it's just so interesting. There's this one point where she's walking down the stairs to check things out, and it's
right,
like the black man,
right.
the one that I think is a Vietnam vet.
Yeah, that's the one I'm
Code.
thinking. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
Mr.
He goes,
Washington.
Mr. Washington. Mr. Washington is tired too.
Yeah,
He's tired of these idiots. He doesn't want any of the drama. He just wants to sit in his chair and rest at the end of the day. And everybody's got to go being so messy. But he
yeah,
goes, he doesn't want to do it, but he knows he has to. And so he goes and picks her up and gets himself shot, I think, at that point, or
yeah, yeah.
almost shot, trying to save her.
Hmm.
And I'm like, oh, that's the white woman have no fear thing, isn't it?
That's right. Just to go ahead and do it. But also, and the women in general too. It was the white woman thing that really struck me. Like I said already in Siege, she's kind of like, well, I don't want to get involved or anything. But in these other movies, it's the women of color who are doing a lot of the work too. Because if you
Yeah.
look in Enemy Territory, you have Stacey Dash plays the young lady, and I think it's her auntie or something. I think it's her aunt is the other one. In Tenement, there's I think there's the Latino woman who decides that she's going to climb out the window on the sheet or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Usually the women who are really daring in these, and
Yeah.
the men are kind of reluctant. Like you have these guys with the hidden military, like you said, the Mr. Washington and I think it's Chester in Siege and Jan Michael Vincent in Enemy Territory. They're all these guys who are either hiding away from everybody or they have PTSD probably from the war.
Yeah.
But they all have these hidden kind of skills and talents that they're going to bring to this fight. They have weapons stocked up and bullets and and hidden away, and they know how to make pipe bombs and rockets and all these things.
Women are used to surviving from the beginning. Like these men
Yeah,
face feeling unsafe and don't know what to do about it. But it's like we're born this way. We've talked about this before. We talked about this with the Fourth Man
yeah,
episode
right.
where it's like, well, we know fear. So when it happens, we just like, well, what can I do? And it's something the movies get wrong a lot.
Hmm.
Just this
Hmm.
sitting there and screaming thing.
Yeah, or falling over and yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, that's not really what they do. It's
Right.
like
And I
even
think
a
these
little
movies
girl will
capture.
boil some water on the stove and
Yeah,
dump it on her
yeah.
enemy.
Yeah, I think these movies capture that pretty well because everybody pitches in and does something.
Yeah,
Everybody tries to grab whatever they can out of their apartment and they try to pile up furniture and throw things and sneak around and find a hidden exit or whatever. Everybody's busy to do something. So,
yeah,
you have this kind of community building in these stories. All these different kinds of backgrounds. They're usually bickering about something or
yeah.
gossiping about each other, but in this they have a common enemy. So now they're unified and they're trying to reclaim their property.
They're kind of isolated in this building,
Hmm. Hmm. They're all they have for each other. Yeah.
and they just know that they need each other to survive. And yeah, there's no real love there,
Yeah.
but they care enough. And I mean, there are things like there's the blind man who's
Hmm.
carving the car for the little
Hmm.
boy. There's a certain amount of community, and when they think these people have been locked up for a long time because they don't realize they've hidden their drugs, they've burned their
Hmm.
drugs and hidden their guns, and there's actually nothing to pin on them.
Hmm.
They celebrate and they do seem to enjoy each other to a certain degree. So yeah, that is
Hmm.
interesting.
Well, now you mentioned there's the blind gentleman in Tenement, and then in Siege they have the apartment where the remaining the survivor of the gay club massacre hides in this apartment with this really nice guy, kind of a hero, gentle dude, played by Tom Nardini, I think, and his girlfriend, and they're having over a couple guests from a school for the blind and the visually impaired, and I kind of like that it's never explained. Like, are they just friends, or do they, or do they volunteer at the school or something? But that is in on one hand they're kind of you know adding more to his character as kind of a bleeding heart nice guy, but
Yeah.
it's also handy plot wise because they give the hearing impaired, or sorry, the visually impaired, they give them superhuman hearing so that they can say, oh yeah, there's five guys running through the alley right now and I can hear them go up the stairs in the a place next door. So now you have like a handy plot thing, right? Because you
Yeah.
have yeah.
And it's so accurate. I mean, I knew somebody in college who, like, she knew how to get around the campus even though she was
Hmm.
blind because she could hear the
Hmm.
fans on certain buildings. And that idea of
Yeah.
disability being a superpower or making your disability work to your benefit. I mean, there's disability in all three of these films,
That's
and
right.
in a
Yeah.
couple of them, it really is just like, yeah, I can still
Hmm.
do even more, let alone as much
Hmm.
as you. So that's also an interesting part of it. And I think that happens in movies more than you'd think. Like,
Hmm. Hmm.
it's that representation's never been great, but
Yeah.
and I mean, I suppose disabilities my superpower could be a little insulting to some too, but it really does just show them as able in their way.
That's right. And heroic.
Yeah,
They
definitely.
get chances to be to you know to be do good and help out and everything. The booby traps too. Speaking of
Yeah.
all the, there's identical booby trap in two of these movies, in
Yeah.
Tenement and in Siege. Well, Siege comes first, so they both use this electrocution booby trap with the springs off the bed and
Yes.
wiring it up to, in one case, a doorknob, but having the wet floor. It's
Yeah.
absolutely the identical trap, which is really, I thought that was really interesting.
And there can't be any way that they saw that. I mean, that's just, it's interesting to me. It's
Yeah,
that thing where it seems like there was an influence, but
yeah,
you're
yeah.
pretty sure that there wasn't. Yeah. Yeah. That's really interesting. In a lot of ways, Tenement is almost too much for me. It's so blood soaked. Like
Hmm.
it's just because, and it's not gore in itself. It isn't that. It's that you get to know the characters so well.
Hmm.
You become you come to like them and then they're killed.
Hmm. Yeah,
That's
very.
what's so terrifying. But in the midst of that is just character, the leader of the gang, Chaco, played by Enrique Sandino. I mean, for one, he's beautiful.
Hmm.
Beautiful man,
Yeah,
which just makes it so confusing, right? Like Siege, they're all kind of screwy, but this guy, he's a good-looking guy, very pretty even.
yeah,
And he just has the most surreal way of talking.
yeah,
Like when he gets angry, when he finally gets so angry that they called the cops on him, there's a shot of him just rising up and he's like, blood, there's blood. I can hear blood and I want
yeah,
to cut up bodies. And it's so mesmerizing, even though it's so terrifying. And just he's just so completely sociopathic too. There's just nothing
yeah, yeah.
and that takes it to another level. Like it's exploitation.
Hmm.
It's this character study in a weird way, and then there's just utterly bizarre character at the
Yeah,
same time. It's
almost
such a strange
cartoonish.
film. Yeah, I think it's the best thing Finley ever did. The Oracle kind of I have a soft spot for that too,
Hmm.
but like her other films, I can see that her husband Michael was more the director, and I think she was just into the camera.
Hmm.
And I've heard that she said that she didn't really like the sex. Like she just was it wasn't into it. And I think she's more into the violence.
Hmm. Hmm.
But when it's her directing, it is a different thing. There's some
Yeah,
weird character to it. Like the Oracle is kind of the same thing where it's like there's this janitor that has kind of a funny, real kind of character. And I think that maybe she's more into it than she'd admit, I guess, in some respects. But anyway,
am I correct that she doesn't like Tenement? Like she has dismissed it over the years?
I don't know about that. I do know that she's that way about her career.
Yeah, in
And that
general. Yeah.
she entirely rejects the idea of being considered a feminist, and she doesn't think much of her career. Like she geeked out over filming things and she
Hmm.
liked making money filming things. And so all of this fuss is a lot to her. But that said, I have seen at least one interview she did on stage where she was interested in being appreciated and kind of like the idea of it. Like I think she wanted to be left alone, but there was maybe a couple of instances where discussing it was interesting to her, and I could see how she maybe did like it a little more than maybe she would fully admit.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's interesting. I know I read what little I could find where she talked about this was that she was saying that she picked the building because it reminded her of the neighborhood and the buildings where she grew up, and even more than that, reminded her of, how there were gangs, a lot of gangs around where she grew up and everything, and that whole dynamic was very familiar. When they picked this building, there were actual gang fights going on outside, which made it pretty dangerous. And they had cast, the woman who there's an older black couple, Mr. and Mrs. Wesley, and the woman goes up to her apartment to get medicine. I believe Mr. Washington is shot at that point, and she runs upstairs to go get an antiseptic or something, like iodine or something like that. And the gang find her up there and kill her. Now, that actress was the wife of the New York police commissioner at the time,
Oh, really?
Olivia Ward. And
That's interesting.
so now what happened was they were all kind of dodging, and kind of working around the gang fights going on in the neighborhood. But once, when she was involved and had a little more acting to do, the police commissioner stationed a whole bunch of police there to make sure that she was safe. And then after that, the whole shoot was a lot safer because they were there to, protect everybody from
Wow.
the gang fights and everything going on. So I thought that was a kind of a fun story.
It did occur to me that it had to have been pretty dangerous to be there.
Yeah, yeah.
'Cause it's
The,
location shooting.
yeah. And there's nothing, like you said, there's nothing there. There's nothing around them. They're isolated. I think in the film they have the sex worker has a customer come over, right? And he won't listen. She's like waving him out the window. She's waving, don't come in,
Yeah.
don't come in, it's dangerous. So, it's really, really out of the way for people
Yeah.
to come, and they have no hope of, by being so isolated, they have no hope of getting word to anybody for help. So
You
one of
couldn't
the
do
other
this anymore unless you jammed cell phone signals.
exactly. Well, this is the other thing. You can't, these are the types of films you have to set in, even if you did them now, you would have to set them in the 70s or early 80s because of that. So, because
Totally.
the cell phones are too convenient. One of the other gang members is Paul Calderon. He's still busy. Like I think the last place I've seen him was in the series Bosch, that cop series, the really good cop.
Right.
He's
Oh,
on there as one of the police detectives. And one of the other guys, the one that has the chain from his nose to his ear piercing, was in a bunch of the Trauma movies.
oh, that's interesting because I really thought that they didn't do much else after that, but there was some people that
Yeah.
did it. So we've got a lot more to talk about just about these three films, and also we're going to dig deep into Enemy Territory, which is a really, I think, underseen. It should be a classic.
Thanks for listening. You can find us and more of our links at psychotronicsisters.wordpress.com.
Come into my den, said the spider, etc.